Good afternoon, folks. Robert Chappell here, Executive Editor of Madison365 with your daily update for Tuesday, February 15th. The daily update today brought to you by Steinhofels with their biggest President's Day sale ever happening right now. You can save 35 to 55% throughout the entire store. Plus, get great bonus buys like a 5-piece counter height dining set for just $2.99. It's Steinhofels' biggest President's Day ever. Shop in-store or online at steinhofels.com today, and we appreciate and we thank Steinhofels for their support of community journalism here at Madison365. A couple things I want to get to some kind of big news at the state level today first. I was invited by Judge Everett Mitchell to a hearing at the state Supreme Court today. I've covered a lot of legislative hearings. I don't think I've ever covered a Supreme Court hearing. So I brought my camera and was not allowed to use it, but that's okay. The hearing today was on, but I was able to capture the video from Wisconsin Eye. So thank you to Wisconsin Eye for covering this. But that's Judge Everett Mitchell speaking before the Supreme Court on this issue of shackling children. There are, until 5 years ago or so, every court in the state, if you're a kid, if you're a juvenile defendant, and they brought you from the detention center to the jail, they'd have you in either handcuffs or leg irons or a belly chain or all three, just as a matter of course. They just assumed that you were a danger and a criminal, and therefore you had to be restrained. And that started to change about 5 years ago. Started in La Crosse County, then here in Dane County with under the leadership of Judge Everett Mitchell, and then Milwaukee County just in the past couple of years. And still 25 counties in Wisconsin still, just as a matter of routine, shackle every child. And that practice is going to end because the state Supreme Court today voted on this petition and adopted the petition and changed state law so that it is now to be presumed that children do not need to be shackled, and that rather they should only be restrained if absolutely necessary. And if it is necessary, they have to use the least restrictive means to restrain that child. Now, the reason for this, and I've got the story up at Madison365.org. You can watch it. You can watch the whole hearing on Wisconsin Eye, but you have to register. It's free, but you have to register. But you can watch the whole hearing. But Judge Mitchell, Judge Laura Cervello from Milwaukee County, longtime public defender Eileen Hirsch, several other advocates testified that basically, if you treat a kid like a criminal, you're going to turn him into a criminal. And that if you're trying to rehabilitate a child who's made some poor choices, you have to treat them with respect and dignity and like an actual person. And that is that's the argument for this petition. The judges did ask a few questions. Mostly they asked about, like, what do sheriffs think about this? Because the court actually put out a communication to, like, the sheriff's departments, the sheriff's associations, the State Bar of Wisconsin, defense attorneys, prosecutors, everybody they can think of, to get opinions. And basically the law enforcement community was just kind of silent on this. Now, the judges that spoke said that when we started to change these policies in the past few years, we've done so in cooperation with the sheriff's departments, right? Because the sheriff's departments are the ones like transporting the children from the jail or from the detention center to the court. So they're aware of the safety needs, right? And the security needs. And they also know the kids after a while, that's what happens. And Judge Mitchell said in the 5 years that they've been changing this policy, they haven't had any issues in the Dane County jail, their Dane County courts. Also, it was mentioned that I should finish my point about the sheriffs. That basically the sheriff's departments just didn't say anything about it. Right? They didn't register one way or the other. So the court was like, well, you had your chance. If this is a problem for you, sheriffs, you had your chance to weigh in, and you didn't. So, but it sounds like from the testimony that we heard, it sounded like most sheriff's departments are fine with this, that they know how to maintain security, whether or not a kid is handcuffed. And counties will be able to continue to create their own policies so they can know when they might need, if a kid is particularly volatile or having a rough day, or it might be a flight, or might try to flee. Like the deputies will know that, right? Their defense attorneys will know that, and they'll be able to enact some sort of less restrictive means of restraining a kid who might need that at that moment, or who might require that. But overall, Wisconsin is the 34th state basically to outlaw that practice of indiscriminate restraint. This is not a new thing. This is not, but it is a step forward for the state of Wisconsin. It was surprising. I called. I went to the hearing this morning. I was jotting down notes as fast as I could, and recorded and then this afternoon. Also, we were interrupted by a fire alarm at the Capitol. And if you heard about that, you might have seen that on some news outlets. There was a malfunctioning air, something to do with the ventilation system, was pumping smoke into the Capitol for some reason. It wasn't a real fire, but anyway, we had to evacuate in the middle of this hearing. So, but anyway, this afternoon, I just texted Judge Mitchell, and I asked, if he had a follow-up question. I had sent some follow-up questions, and he called me and said, "We just heard they voted already. They adopted it. We expected this to be like weeks from now. Like you have the hearing today, think about it, read through the briefs, write an opinion, vote in a few weeks. But they went ahead and voted today, adopted the petition, and set July 1st as the deadline. So that was the big news out of the state Supreme Court today that you will find exclusively on Madison365.org right now. It's the main story on the front page right now. There's no other press on it. So there you go. Also today, we have a feature on something really cool happening at Madison College here in Madison. It is called Yams and Sweet Potatoes, celebrating Black culinary excellence. This is Chef Patience Clark. And she's one of the presenters who's been presenting at this series for Black History Month at Madison College. Food is culture, you know that, right? Food and culture are just inexplicably and indelibly linked. Indelibly linked. So Madison College this month is celebrating African American as well as African cuisine with chefs and caterers and food writers, and so making all sorts of presentations. The author of the book High on the Hog, which is now a docuseries on Netflix, will have a special presentation on the 18th of February. So all of that is happening right now at Madison College, and the synopsis and all of that is on Madison365.org right now. Also today from the new News Lab in Northeast Wisconsin, Heather Graves has a really good look at homelessness coming out of the pandemic and how the pandemic has exacerbated homelessness, just put a spotlight on homelessness, and that again is a collaboration we are part of. We're pleased to be part of that collaboration, covering Northeast Wisconsin, Green Bay, Brown County, Fox Valley. Really good look at homelessness up there, which is on the site at Madison365.org right now. We're going to take a short pause. When we come back, we'll be talking COVID for a minute. There's not a lot to talk about, thankfully. That's the best news. But stay with us. I'll be right back after this word from the UW-Madison Division of Arts. Oh, there I am. I didn't realize that ad had a little bit of black at the end of it. All right, let's talk numbers real quick. The numbers continue to be better. 1,828 new cases is the 7-day average. That's down from a little over 1,900. It's down by about 100 since yesterday. Yesterday was 1,900 and something, right? The percentage of positive tests continues to fall, also down to 9.5%. Both of these are the decrease is a little bit more shallow, right? It's not quite as straight up and down anymore, but it's still coming down pretty quickly. The percentage of positive tests was 9.9 yesterday. Today it's 9.5. We want it to be below 3, like that's the goal. And if we continue the way it's going, we'll be there by early March, right? March 1st is when the last mask mandate in the state is expiring. Dane County yesterday, as I mentioned yesterday, said that they're going to let that mask mandate expire March 1st, which is in 2 weeks, which does not necessarily affect your school district, right? Some school districts are mirroring the county, others aren't. So make sure you're paying attention to your school's policy. Also, if you businesses can still require masks, and if you see people with masks, like leave them alone. Like it's fine. If you want to wear a mask, do so. Seriously, especially if you're not vaccinated. But do get vaccinated. Hospitalizations also continue to fall pretty rapidly. We're down to 842 today. That's 42 fewer than yesterday. That's 365 fewer than a week ago, down to 165 patients currently in the ICU. And the shockingest number of all, and this is the best news of the day, of the week, of the month, the daily death average is down to 13. That's this. We haven't seen that since fall. That includes 19 new confirmed deaths today. Again, those are deaths that were confirmed today, not that happened today. Okay, those are deaths that happened 4 or 5 weeks ago. 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were seeing 6,000, 7,000 cases a day, which should have translated to 60 or 70 deaths every day. Like we should be in the 60s right now. But the Omicron variant, when they said it wasn't as severe, it really wasn't as severe. It caused problems. It caused disruptions in schools and businesses and families. It caused hospitalizations. It caused a real strain on the hospital system, right? But because we have a lot of vaccine here, and because we have the better therapeutics and the better treatments and stuff, and because that strain of the virus wasn't as severe, we're just not seeing that translate into a really high number of deaths, which is really good news. I'm really surprised. I'm happy about it, so that's the best news of the day. But our total death toll still is pretty high, 11,637 confirmed COVID-19 deaths. But the fact is, Omicron is just not as deadly as we had feared it would be. So that's all I have for you today. And I will be back tomorrow with more news for you. And as well as, hopefully continued, good news on the COVID front. Until then, have a wonderful evening. Word is we might get some snow tomorrow, so give yourself extra time in the morning. But until then, have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
This is 365 Media.